Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and at long last, I could finally experience the new Spectre Rising content. When the new operation first came out, I was literally on a plane to Dallas because, of course, I was going to the Borderlands 3 event, so I was not able to experience the new content as soon as it came out, which was a really strange experience for me, right? Normally, I'm right there in the thick of things on day one as new things are coming out for Call of Duty, but this time around, I had to sit back and watch everybody else react to the new content and to the new operation. I was able to see what people liked about the game, what they disliked about the game, and now the content is available on all platforms. I think it's safe to say that the reaction from the community is pretty mixed as of right now. In general, people seem to really enjoy Spectre as a specialist. He's super annoying to die to, but what's not annoying to die to in the Call of Duty franchise? People tend to enjoy WMD, but the other maps are very mixed. Like, some people really like them, some people really dislike them. For me personally, I'm pretty positive that Artifact might be one of the worst maps in Call of Duty history. I don't know, I've only played it a couple of times, but my freaking goodness, that map is pretty rough around the edges, to say the least. But in general, I feel as though the content is at least mixed, right? But if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that the new supply drop system is freaking awful. It took the old system, which was already pretty bad, and made it even worse. Like, I didn't know it was possible to make the system worse, but they found a way to, and that's what we're going to be focusing on here in this video. So about a month ago, Reddit user .net1 put together a list showing every item that's available in the Black Ops 4 supply drop pool. There were about 800 total items at the time, which is absurd to think about, especially considering that duplicates are a thing, but now with Operation Spectre Rising, they've added 242 more items on top of that, but they're not actual new items, right? So how they've done this is they've added 2 new Blackout characters, which is fine, we all like new Blackout characters. They added 2 new weapon camos, but instead of just adding the weapon camos, they made it so we have to individually unlock these camos for each weapon. So those 2 little bits of content that they added, the 2 new camos, they account for 52 possible items within supply drops. Once again, not counting duplicates. On top of that, they added 3 new death effects for your weapons, but if you spread that across 25 total weapons, that means they've added 75 total items to these supply drops. The weapon charms are a little bit less egregious. We all thought that the weapon charms were going to be crazy like we saw back in World War II, but in total, there are 10 charms spread across the various weapons, and since you can only have certain charms on certain weapons, there are only 39 total charm items that are in the supply drop loot pool, which is much less than what we see with camos or the death effects. But moving along here, they added 50 total war paints to the game in the form of 2 actual war paints spread across multiple characters. We have 6 gestures, 13 outfits, 4 signature weapon variants, and of course 1 jump pack. Now I would like to give a shout out to Urban Cheese over on Reddit for putting together this entire list, because it really does put into perspective just how far they are stretching that very limited amount of content that they actually added to the game. Like, 3 death effects account for 75 total items in supply drops. 2 camos account for 52 total items in supply drops. It's freaking absurd when you think about it. And when you look at the actual content that you're after, right, the content that you may want to get, whether it's reactive camos or blackout characters or actual weapons or skins of a legendary or higher quality, the chances of you getting that content from Operation Spectre Rising are already pretty low, right? Like 1 item out of 272, that's not a very good chance, especially with duplicates. But keep in mind, we're not only talking about Operation Spectre Rising. Back in Modern Warfare Remastered, they did a pretty interesting thing by making it so you could get supply drops that would only give you content from that particular operation, right? Well, here in Black Ops 4, we don't have that. So therefore, in supply drops, we have all the content from all the previous operations on top of the current operation, which means your chances of getting one specific item are something like 1 in 1,000, not counting duplicates, right? It's freaking absurd how bad the supply drop system is. It's hard to break down the exact numbers, but let's be generous for a second and say that the average player who puts a decent amount of time into the game, let's say their chances of getting a duplicate are somewhere between 30 and 50%. This means that while occasionally you'll chip away at that never-ending amount of filler items in the supply drop loot pool, you're still going to get an absurd amount of duplicates, which essentially nullify all the work that you put in. You play for an hour, you get your free reserve case, you open it up, and you get some crappy filler item from a previous operation that you already had, right? You get a duplicate of it. That's why this progression system is so freaking bad. And what's worse about this is the supply drop system is really the only long-term reward system that we have in Black Ops 4. When we're talking about short-term reward systems, we're talking about the battle passes and the events, and those are definitely pretty cool, right? I personally enjoy those, but in terms of long-term rewards, like the things that are going to keep you playing the game for a long time, this is pretty much it outside of Prestige Master, Dark Matter, and of course the 100%er challenge. When it comes to Prestige Master, you of course can grind up to level 1000, but the real goal is just to hit Prestige Master in the first place, right? Because once you're there, you're kind of there, and going from Prestige Master level 56 up to 1000 doesn't even give you anything tangible in the game outside of being able to change your prestige icon, I suppose, which is fine. I like the old school prestige icons, but it's not really that great of a reward. Moving on to Dark Matter, I mean, Dark Matter is really fun to go to, and it's awesome once you get it. There's a real sense of accomplishment there, but because we have so few weapons in this game, it's really not that hard to unlock Dark Matter compared to the previous games. And when it comes to the 100%er challenge, that's fun. I personally really enjoy going for challenges. Like, it's a super satisfying reward system in my opinion, but if I'm being entirely honest, the reward is not all that great. We're talking about an animated calling card here for doing every challenge in the game. No camos, no outfits, no guns, no anything really, just an animated calling card. So for a lot of people, that's not worth the grind. They're not going to go for the 100%er challenge, and so as a result, they're basically left to Prestige Master, Dark Matter, and supply drops, right? When it comes to supply drops, I feel as though the system we have here in Black Ops 4 is one of the worst we've seen in the Call of Duty franchise. Maybe even the worst, but then again, Black Ops 3 was pretty freaking bad. The reason why it's so bad here in Black Ops 4 is because we have so many items, and so many of them are filler, and duplicates are a thing. Like, it's one thing if we could slowly chip away and unlock everything, but unless you're a YouTuber or a live streamer who can dedicate like 8 hours of playing per day, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of unlocking everything here in Black Ops 4. The best thing that Treyarch and Activision could do right now would be to remove duplicates from the supply drop loot pool entirely. I have no idea why they're there in the first place. Like, we have 1,000 total items in supply drops right now. Are they really that worried that an overwhelming number of people would suddenly have every item in the game if duplicates were removed? It would take an absurd amount of time, even with no duplicates whatsoever, to unlock every single item, because you're going to need anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 supply drops depending on how much you've played already. That's an absurd amount of playtime, right? And keep in mind that after Spectre Rising is over, which it ends in 1 month, we have the Days of Summer event, and then we have a proper summer operation, and then a fall operation before Modern Warfare 4 comes out, and who knows what other operations may or may not come out while Modern Warfare 4 is out. They are going to add an absurd amount of supply drop content to the game. It's only going to get crazier and crazier, right? So the amount of items in supply drops is going to get higher and higher, and our chances of getting good content from those supply drops are only going to get lower and lower as the game gets older. One of the worst parts about this as well, like I discussed earlier, is that they're not even really adding content to the game. They're adding a super small amount of content to the game and then stretching it as thin as humanly possible. Like, in total, and I may have my numbers slightly off here, so forgive me, but I think in total they only added 30 items to the supply drop loot pool with Operation Spectre Rising. And by items, I mean the charms and the blackout characters and the camos and everything else. They only added 30 total new items to the game, but they stretched those items out to 270 items by making it so we had to get them for individual weapons and things like that. Like, they are stretching everything so thin right now, and it's basically going to be impossible to unlock everything here in the game, let alone even a decent percentage of the good content here here in this game, which is why some change needs to happen. It seems like Treyarch and Activision feel as though they have all the time in the world, but realistically, Black Ops 4 has 4, maybe 5 good months left in it before Modern Warfare 4 comes out. The Modern Warfare 4 teasers, of course, are right around the corner. The Modern Warfare 4 beta is also going to be coming, and who knows what is going to be coming in regards to Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. There is a lot of new Call of Duty content right around the corner, along with a number of other major game releases, and they're going to be competing. We talk all the time about how COD doesn't compete with this or COD does compete with that. COD is competing with every other game out there, especially the newer Call of Duty games, right? So if they want to keep people playing Black Ops 4 and keep people interested in Black Ops 4, they need to change this system. It's time for Treyarch to take a page out of Sledgehammer's book and revamp part of their game based on community feedback. Back in World War II, they revamped pretty much the entire multiplayer based on feedback, and the game is phenomenal as a result of that. Well, here in Black Ops 4, we don't really need to revamp the multiplayer, we need to revamp the black market because it's freaking terrible, and they also need to revamp their schedule for weapon releases, because if you look back, maybe in the past 100 days or so, again, my numbers are close but not perfect here, I feel like in the past 100 days, they've released 3 total primary weapons for Black Ops 4, which is absurd if you think about it, right? The game released with such a small number of weapons to begin with, and now they're basically spoon-feeding us weapons over the course of the Black Ops 4 lifecycle, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if by the time the Black Ops 4 lifecycle is over, that we did not have as many primary weapons in the game, counting DLC, as we had back in Black Ops 1 at the launch of the game. Like, the lack of weapons in this game is what's really holding it back, in my opinion. They're focusing way too much on Blackout. They need to go back to focusing on multiplayer, and I said before, I'll say it again, how they can fix this right now would be to add the MP40, the Galil, the Zweihander, as well as the Essex from Blackout and Zombies into the multiplayer. The guns are there, the sounds are there, the inspect animations are there, the reloads are there. All they would have to do is add attachments to the weapons, and even then, don't even add the attachments if it's really that much hassle. Just add the guns to the multiplayer so fans have something to do. If they were to add those weapons along with all the other Spectre Rising content that they've already added, that would be a huge shot in the arm for the game, and I feel as though that momentum would carry over into the Days of Summer event, and then the eventual summer operation, as well as the fall operation. It would be really good for the game, but for some reason, they really just don't want to do it, and I have no idea why that is, but all in all, guys, I feel as though Spectre Rising is pretty sick. For what content there is here, it's pretty good, but it's a small amount of content, and as always, the supply drop system and the monetization models, they are atrocious as ever. Activision said recently that Black Ops 4 is basically one giant experiment when it comes to monetization, and it definitely shows. They are definitely trying just to see what they can get away with when it comes to Call of Duty monetization, and it's really hard, like as a consumer, to get that monetization policy to change because there are so many people that feed into that system. If you look at places like YouTube here, of course, or Reddit, or Twitter, or anywhere else, it almost seems like everybody universally agrees that the Black Ops Pass is bad. We all agree that $30 weapon bundles are bad, and that supply drops in general are bad, yet the system keeps moving along. I think it's because we have so many people feeding into that system, not necessarily me or you or really anybody watching this video, but rather the super casual fan, the fan that just plays the game and doesn't pay attention to YouTube or social media, the kind of fan who just buys COD points on payday or whenever they see a cool bundle because they like the game, they want that item, and because this kind of monetization is so rampant in the gaming industry, they don't even really think twice about it. They just feed into the system and they buy these things pretty much right away. I think that's the crux of the entire situation. As much as people like to meme that COD is dead or that COD is dying, it's literally the best-selling game every single year. When it's not number 1, it's number 2. It's really freaking popular, right? Millions upon millions of people buy Call of Duty every single year within the opening month, and when it's all said and done, pretty much every COD surpasses 10 million total copies sold. And when you have such a massive group of people playing, it can sometimes be really hard to get these kind of initiatives moving, right? I mean, just look at the black market blackout that we had back in Black Ops 3. Virtually every YouTuber hopped on board and we all agreed no more supply drop opening videos, no more buying supply drops or anything like that, and it changed nothing. Black Ops 3 had a terrible system, and to this day, it still has a pretty terrible system. system, the black market blackout didn't really help whatsoever. But I do think it's important that we bring up this kind of stuff in videos like this because it gets the message out there, right? I feel as though if I have a voice here in my channel, I should use that voice to discuss things like this and hopefully add to the conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, there's a lot they need to do for Black Ops 4, but the biggest thing they could do right now would be making it so duplicates are no longer a thing in supply drops. That would really help out the game's long-term reward system and allow people to actually unlock new content, even though they're doing everything they can to stretch that new content out as thin as humanly possible. Like I discussed in my previous video, the reveal for Modern Warfare 4 is right around the corner, and I'm super excited about that. And I have to wonder, though, what is that game going to be? What's the catch of that game going to be? Because every Call of Duty game seems to have a catch, right? And with Black Ops 4, they reused a lot of content from previous games, and then the monetization model has been so all over the place the entire year, so I have to wonder, what's Modern Warfare 4's system going to be like? The best thing they could do, honestly, imagine this. They give us the reveal trailers, right? They give us some teasers and trailers, and we're all getting excited for the game, and then at E3, they reveal that there will be no supply drops whatsoever, no crazy monetization, and instead, they're going to go back to the old school way of doing things by just making it so people can unlock content in the game that they paid for. How awesome would that be? That would be pretty freaking cool, right? But chances are, knowing Activision, that won't happen. But if we look back at Infinite Warfare, the system they had in that game was pretty good, but it seems to change on a game-by-game basis depending on how popular that game is. Infinite Warfare was not popular whatsoever, and lo and behold, it has the best, most consumer-friendly supply drop system we've ever seen, right? Do you think that's a coincidence? And then you look at World War II, which was like kind of middle of the road, like it's pretty popular, but not the best game ever, so the monetization model was kind of in the middle, where it was kind of good and kind of bad. And then with Black Ops 4, which is a much more popular game than World War II or Infinite Warfare, suddenly the monetization model is terrible. And I think it's because they changed that model based on how many people are actually playing it. But of course, we have no idea. It could be coming down to the individual developers. It could be changing based on the climate of the gaming industry. We have no freaking idea. We're so much on the outside. There's so much to speculate about. We have no freaking clue. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop me a rating and let me know down there in the comments, what do you think of the Operation Spectre Rising content, and where do you see Black Ops 4 going in the future? I would love to hear about that, but until then, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.